The late afternoon sun cast a golden glow over the quiet roadside diner. A low rumble echoed across the parking lot as a group of bikers rolled in, their motorcycles shining under the fading light. One by one, they parked in a line, engines shutting off with heavy clicks. People inside the diner glanced nervously through the windows. The bikers looked tough, leather jackets, worn boots, and tattoos that told stories no one dared to ask about. But after a long ride across the highway, all they really wanted was food and a place to rest. Just as they were about to head inside, a small voice spoke behind them. "Sir, please buy my bike." The men turned around. Standing near the edge of the parking lot was a skinny boy, no more than 10 years old. His hair was messy, his shirt faded and too big for him. Beside him stood a small old bicycle with chipped paint and slightly bent handlebars. The boy held onto it tightly, as if it were the most important thing he owned. Mike, the tallest of the bikers, stepped forward and knelt so he could look the boy in the eyes. "Why do you want to sell your bike, kid?" he asked gently. The boy hesitated, his fingers tightened around the handlebar. "My mommy, she hasn't eaten in 2 days." The words hung in the air. The tough-looking bikers suddenly fell silent. Sam, another rider with a thick beard, shifted uncomfortably. "Where's your dad?" he asked. The boy looked down at the ground, scuffing his shoe against the gravel. "He left a long time ago." Mike slowly reached into his wallet. "How much do you want for the bike?" he asked. The boy shrugged. "Anything is okay, I just need to buy food for my mom." Mike handed him several folded bills, far more than the bike was worth. "Here," Mike said. The boy stared at the money in disbelief. "But the bike?" Mike smiled slightly. "Keep it." The boy's eyes widened. "Really?" "Yeah," Mike said, standing up. "But there's one condition." The boy blinked nervously. "What is it?" Mike looked at the other bikers who were already nodding. "Take us to your mom." The boy hesitated for a moment, then nodded quickly and began pushing his bike down a narrow street behind the diner. The bikers followed him, their heavy boots echoing on the cracked pavement. The houses grew smaller and more worn with every step. Finally, they stopped in front of a tiny, crumbling house with peeling paint and a sagging porch. The boy pushed the door open. "Mom, I'm back." Inside, the room was nearly empty. A thin woman lay weakly on an old couch. But when she saw the group of bikers behind her son, fear flashed across her face. And when her eyes met Mike's, her expression suddenly turned to shock. The room fell silent. The woman stared at Mike as if she had seen a ghost. Her pale face tightened with shock, and for a moment she struggled to speak. "You," she whispered. Mike frowned slightly, studying her face more closely. Years had clearly been hard on her. She looked thinner, weaker, and far more tired than anyone her age should. But something about her felt familiar. "Do I know you?" Mike asked quietly. Before she could answer, the boy rushed to her side and placed the small bag of food on the table. "Mom, look, they helped us. They gave me money and brought food." The woman looked down at the bag, her eyes filling with tears. "You didn't have to do this," she said softly to the bikers. Sam shook his head. "Kid said you hadn't eaten in 2 days. That's not something we ignore." Mike glanced around the room. The place was almost empty. No proper furniture, no refrigerator, barely anything that looked like a home. "What happened here?" he asked. The woman hesitated. At first it seemed like she didn't want to answer, but after a moment she took a slow breath and looked down at her son. "Go eat something," she told him gently. The boy nodded and sat at the small table, quietly opening a sandwich. Only then did she look back at Mike. "It started last year," she said, "after my husband died." Mike and the other bikers listened closely. "A man in town offered to help us," she continued. "He said he could give me a job at one of his businesses. He told me not to worry, that my son and I would be taken care of." For a while, things were better. She worked long hours, but she could pay rent and buy food. Then one night, everything changed. "He started asking for things," she said quietly. "Things that had nothing to do with work." Mike's expression hardened. "And when you refused?" Sam asked. "I lost the job," she replied. "Soon after that, the landlord raised the rent. The car I used for work was suddenly gone. Even the grocery store stopped giving me credit. Her voice trembled. It felt like someone was slowly taking everything away from us. Mike crossed his arms. "Who?" he asked. The woman looked at him, fear flickering in her eyes. Then she said a single name. The bikers froze, because everyone in town knew that name. A man powerful enough to control businesses, homes, and people. Mike's jaw tightened as he looked at the boy eating quietly at the table. "No kid should have to sell his bike just to feed his mom," he said slowly. The bikers exchanged glances, and in that moment they all understood the same thing. Someone in this town had crossed a line, and the wrong group of men had just found out.